days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's time for the tale of the tape. Of course, we all know that's an old term to talk about comparisons. And thanks to everyone that comes in the comment section and lets everyone know that's what it's about. Because we like to go through and look at what these teams are doing so far during the season and compare numbers. Look at some of the things that they do. We compare players, we look at numbers, and it gives us a good idea of what these teams are being successful at and maybe what they're not. And some of the trends that are going on with each team, why, a team is 3-1 or a team is 1-3. And in this case, we know we got two very good NFC West teams that are going to be playing on a Thursday night. And so there's a lot of things that go into this. Game planning, there's not a whole lot of it. You pretty much are rolling with the game plan you had the week before, and you're just tailoring it to the team that you're going to play. But there are certain trends, whether it's the 49ers not running the football as well as they have in the past, or maybe it's the fact that the Rams offense is running the ball pretty well, better than they've done in the past. These types of trends definitely dictate how a defense plays an offense or how an offense is effective. So we go through all of it, and it's always fun to kind of take a look at these teams and see where they're at and where they're potentially headed. And we all know with more games played, we get more context. We get more information on who these teams are. We're also going to go through key injuries, talk about, the injuries that could hurt the 49ers. We're going to talk about, some of the injuries on the Rams side, but primarily they're pretty healthy. And so we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about Matthew Stafford. It's going to be a fun episode. I'm really looking forward. So please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating if you feel like I deserve it. And of course, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So, let's take a look at the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers, and just kind of where they're sitting right now in the whole grand scheme of things. And so you look at the records, and both teams are 3-1. The Rams lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in really a game that they probably should have won. They were up 26-7 in that game, and the Philadelphia Eagles were able to work their way back and eventually win. And that was a tough pill to swallow for the Los Angeles Rams. They could easily be sitting here at 4-0. They beat a very good Colts team last week, an undefeated Colts team, and knocked them off by a touchdown. So the Rams have been playing really good football, and I think it's illustrated in that 3-1 record. And then the 49ers, it's been up and down. It's been finding ways to win, interesting ways to win. They almost got it done against Jacksonville, but this time the turnovers were just too much. That last drive, they're trying to go down the field. They have an opportunity to take the lead and potentially win, and there's a strip sack. Eric Armstead is able to get home on Brock Purdy, knock the ball out, and there's all she wrote for the San Francisco 49ers, and that's how they got to 3-1. So both teams have been competitive all season. They've been in every single game they've played, and they haven't really been losing. I know that the Rams lost by more than a score in that game versus Philadelphia, but that's not really what it was, right? The blocked field goal, and return for a touchdown. That game, the Rams easily could have won that matchup. Matthew Stafford put them in position to win, and it just didn't work out. But you look at the 49ers, and it's been however they had to win, right? With Brock Purdy, without Brock Purdy, by causing turnovers, by good field special teams play, bad special teams play. Everything is kind of worked up and down for this team, and last week's special teams really hurt them. But 3-1, 49ers 2-0 in the division. So this is a big one. If the 49ers were able to defeat the Los Angeles Rams and move to 3-0 in the division, they would absolutely be kings of the NFC West and be sitting in a very comfortable spot, even though they would play the Rams, Cardinals, and then Seattle Seahawks is how the season ends. The 49ers would feel very comfortable inside the division as far as that record. It would also move them to 4-1, while the Rams would fall to 3-2. But it's the opposite is true as well. If the Rams were able to beat the 49ers, well, 49ers get their first divisional loss. It's not the end of the world. But for the Rams, it would put them up at top in command of the NFC. So NFC West. So that would be really interesting. I think both teams are really good. Let's look at the points per game right now. 49ers got their number finally to 20. So they had been hovering around 18 to 19 points per game. You look at week 1, it was 17. Week 2, that was the explosion with Mac Jones at quarterback against the New Orleans Saints. And New Orleans Saints defense isn't terrible, but it's definitely not up to par with Seattle and Arizona and Jacksonville. And they get 26 in that game. Well, it was a tough one against the Cardinals, 16 points. They win. Last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 49ers left so many opportunities for points on the table with ineffective red zone offense. We're going to talk about that in this episode as well. That is one problem for the 49ers so far this season is effectiveness in the red zone. They just haven't been able to be consistent yet. And that is really hurting their points per game at 20. You look at the Rams, they're doing a pretty good job. 25 points. That is a solid number. That's about where you want to be. Anywhere from 25 to 29, you're a really good offense. Anything 30 plus, you're a great offense. 49ers right now are average at best. So they've got to get these points per game up. And one of the ways you do it is by executing in the red zone. Right now, the 49ers haven't been as good in the red zone as they should be. Now let's look at offensive yards per game. Right now, both teams are up there, getting close to 400. The Rams closer at 388. And we're going to go through their yards when it comes to run and pass. And they're a lot more balanced than the 49ers. 49ers are very much pass heavy. But you want to get to 400. When you're talking about an offense in the NFL, the perfect balance is you want to get to at least 400 yards a game, and that's tough to do in today's NFL. But you want about 150 yards on the ground and 250 yards through the air. That is the perfect balance. That is signaling you're winning in time of possession. You're winning in all the categories. That's kind of the perfect mash. Now, you don't really get there very often, but that's what you strive to do. Rams are pretty close. 388, it's effective offense. 49ers, 368. They have been moving the ball. They have been consistent on third down, which we'll talk about as well. The problem is punching it into the end zone has been a little bit of a problem. Turnovers have been a real problem for the 49ers offense, and that's why they're not capitalizing on what is them moving the ball up and down the field pretty well. And part of it is injuries. I mean, the 49ers are definitely dealing with a ton of injuries, a lot more than the Rams. San Francisco 49ers, of course, Brock Purdy, we don't know for sure what's going to happen with him, at least at time of the recording. Brock Purdy dealing with some soreness in the toe. He is questionable for this game. He would not have practiced the Monday practice if they would have had it. So that is a question mark. Mac Jones could definitely go this week as he is a full participant in practice this week. So that's something to monitor all week. Ricky Pearsall, I think the likelihood of him playing is probably, about 20%. I think that there's a really good chance Ricky Pearsall doesn't play this week. As Kyle Shanahan said, he's dealing with a little bit of a PCL. We know with Dominic Pooney that, PCL, usually you recover pretty quickly, but I don't know what that means for Pearsall. I don't know if they think holding him out of this game that he would be ready for, the week 6 matchup, and that could be the case. Or, if it has to go longer, but a short week like this is going to make it really tough for Ricky Pearsall. Jawan Jennings continues to be dealing with injuries. He's dealing with, the ankle, but also a rib. He had that shot that he took on the 2-point conversion. He made the catch, but it was a tough play and he took a real shot. He's, basically been questionable this week. Robert Beal Jr. is dealing with an ankle and he's stepping in place of Nick Bosa when it comes to, being a rotational piece of defensive end and adding depth to stopping the run. And they need him. Sam Okuwanu really struggled stopping the run last week, but Beal Jr. dealing with an ankle. Renardo Green would have been limited. That's good news. He did miss the game last week. I think the effects of that were felt in coverage. Terrell Luter Jr. did a good job stopping the run, but Renardo Green is a far significant player, and the 49ers definitely need him in this one. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, you got all the other weapons too. Tutu Atwell. It's very impressive wide receiver room to go with Matthew Stafford, who can make every throw that you need to make. They need Renardo Green. Mikael Williams, he's dealing with injury. He's got the wrist still that was from, a couple weeks ago. He's also dealing with other things. So, Mikael Williams, I expect him to play, but we'll see. And then D. Winters is dealing with a knee, but I do expect D. Winters to play as well. So, injuries for the 49ers, pretty significant. Injuries for the Rams, not so much. These guys were limited did not practice. Rob Havenstein, Tyler Higbee, the tight end, he didn't practice either. But they've got depth when it comes to tight end. Higbee not practicing, it doesn't mean the end of the world. They still have Kobe Parkinson, Davis Allen, the young rookie Terrence Ferguson. But I wouldn't count Tyler Higbee out. We'll see what happens with that. And then when you look at the safety, Cameron Kitchens, he was limited. Good young safety there. So he will be in the mix as well. So Rams definitely not hurting as much when it comes to injuries as the 49ers. And 49ers are just been a mash unit all year. It's been really tough to get those guys on the field. And they're still missing George Kittle. And they're still missing Malik Mustafa. And they're still missing Brandon Ayuk and Ben Barch. And it's a list of players, not including Nick Bosa out for the year. So this is just something that's going to be a struggle for the 49ers all year, it appears. Now you look at the run offense. The Los Angeles Rams are being very effective running the football. And, Kyron Williams and this running back group, now they kind of got Blake Corum going a little bit as well. A talented run group. And Sean McVay always finds a way. It's not always successful early, but he finds a way. Kyron Williams has been a big reason why they've been able to run the ball over the last couple of years. He's been very effective. And so 120 yards, it's not, like I said, it's not up to that 150 you're striving for, but that is good run offense. 49ers were usually up in the 120s, and in 2023, they averaged over 140 yards per game. Now they're 88 yards per game. This 49ers run game has struggled mightily. I broke down the first half offense over on Patreon. That's already available. And you can see that it's kind of a multitude of things. Number one, 49ers offensive linemen were struggling on the interior to block, some of the Jaguars studs up front. And they're also just, dealing with a lot of these guys willing to bring extra safeties and stuff into the box, put 8-man boxes together, and make it tough to run the ball consistently. So right now, that is what's happening. They haven't been as effective on the ground. I did think Brian Robinson had his best game as a 49er, even though he only had 5 carries in that game. He was effective for the most part in those 5 carries. He had 21 yards. He had over 4 yards a carry. I'm hoping that means more opportunities for him. The problem is he's not as good when it comes to the passing game as Christian McCaffrey, and they need McCaffrey's dual threat to threaten opposing defenses. So right now, Brian Robinson is not really getting an opportunity. I think if the 49ers were able to get a lead in any of these games, and I don't know if that's going to happen against the Rams, but I think if they were able to get a lead, they could run a little bit more with Brian Robinson and kind of get him really rolling. I think he needs to get going for this 49ers run game. But right now, we'll see. Our team's going to be willing to sit back in a 2-high safety shell and allow the 49ers to run with 7 and see if they can stop it. I don't think the Rams' run defense is as good as the Jaguars, but they still have been pretty good this year too. So I'm sure they'll test it out. And depending on who the quarterback is for the 49ers, it could be a determining factor. I think if it's Brock Purdy, teams do worry a little bit more about the vertical pass because he will hold on the ball and throw take the shot downfield. Mac Jones has been really selective with that. Really, the shot to Ricky Pearsall down the sideline against the Cardinals was the main shot that he's taken. And so he's been very protective of the football. And people could argue that that's been really important to his success in the 2 games the 49ers won with Mac Jones at the helm. But that this run game really has to get going. And part of it is you have to have, teams afraid to bring that safety in the box and that you'll burn them. But with the injuries at wide receiver, it's been a problem. Now, it hasn't been a problem as far as pass yards. 49ers are still able to get the ball to their playmakers, and their playmakers are making plays. Pass yards has been wide receivers. It's also been Jake Tunges and Luke Farrell who are doing their best to replace George Kittle. Jake Tunges has been very effective as a backup tight end, especially in the passing game. But a lot of these yards are coming from Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey had over 90 yards last week against Jacksonville, as teams have been very willing to just kind of sit back, take away those deep crossers to Juwan Jennings, to Ricky Pearsall and others, and sit back and allow you to check it down underneath to guys like Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk, and then rally up and make tackles. That has kind of been what they've been doing, and it's been pretty effective for the most part. So they're taking away 49er staples, making you check it down, and they're just thinking you won't consistently just check it down all day. that you're eventually going to try to get one into that intermediate area, and it's going to go for an interception or possibly a big play. So I think that the 49ers know that they've got to be a little bit more effective with just taking what's there. If you got to be a check down merchant, you got to be a check down merchant. Oh, you're going to give me 5, boom. Oh, you're going to give me 5, boom. And you just got to do that and do that and do that until they start to creep those guys up. And if they don't, well, go 90 yards down the field, just hitting those check downs. So it's something that the 49ers have to do. The quarterbacks have to be willing to take what's there. And then when the opportunity strikes, take that deep shot down the field. And I thought Brock did that at times in the game, but there were times that he took some chances, and it ended up kind of getting to him a little bit. Now let's look at the quarterback comparison here, and I'm going to go ahead and go through both because we don't know for sure the status of Brock Purdy. I do think Mac Jones is going to end up starting this game, but right now Mac Jones, 66.3% completion percentage. He's been effective. Matthew Stafford, he's at 67.6. You look at the yards in the 2 games that Mac Jones played, and remember that this is 2 versus 4. Mac Jones, 563 yards through 2 games. Matthew Stafford, 11-14 in his 4 games. Very effective offense. You look at the touchdowns, Mac Jones, 4-1. That is really good. You want to have a 2-to-1 ratio when it comes to touchdowns to interceptions. Right now, he's well accomplished compared to, what he had done in previous years, or right now what Brock Purdy's doing. But 4-1 is really good. You look at Matthew Stafford, he's at 8-2. Very good. 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions is a great total. Matthew Stafford is having another very solid season. You look at sacks, and basically both of these guys get sacked twice a game. Mac Jones, 4 sacks in 2 games, and Matthew Stafford, 8 sacks in 4 games. So, neither one of these guys extremely nimble. They do have the ability to escape the pocket. Maybe they'll get you a little bit of yards here and there, but they're not scramblers. They're not guys that are going to go, make big plays for you in the run game. And so they're basically going to be pocket passers for this whole game. Their effectiveness is going to be how quickly they can get rid of the ball. We've seen Matthew Stafford be absolutely fantastic in previous seasons. Mac Jones has a 98.1 rating, where Matthew Stafford has a 106.1. He has been extremely effective. Now, let's take a look at Brock Purdy's numbers. And, I put him up against Matthew Stafford's, but we will focus on Brock Purdy. 65.8% completion percentage, not terrible, but not where he normally is. The 586 yards over 2 games is very close to Mac Jones. He's about 20 yards more, 4 touchdowns, right along that lines. Right, 2 touchdowns a game is effective. Here's the problem. 4 interceptions, 2 in each of the games that he's played, and they've been really big problems. Now, what he does give you is he doesn't get sacked, right? Mac Jones sacked twice as much as Brock Purdy. That is kind of the elusiveness of him and his ability to create, on the move, which is huge. But because he's turned over the ball so much, and he had some drops as well. That completion percentage, there was a lot of drops in the Jacksonville Jaguars game, so it dropped it a little bit more. I'm guessing he'd probably be closer to Matthew Stafford, but an 85.8 rating, and a lot of it is because of those 4 interceptions. And I think the 49ers know, they've got to take care of the ball better, no matter who the quarterback is. That is for sure. Now, you look at the 3rd down conversion percentage. 49ers offense has been very effective this year, and it was good again against Jacksonville. 8-14 on 3rd down, over 50%. You see their total at 48.1. They have been good. They have been able to get drives going. They've stayed ahead of the sticks. That is very good. This is one of those marks that usually show you're a good team. Now, of course, that can be negated by turnovers, and unfortunately, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that is exactly what happened. But you see that. It's a good number. Rams more along the league average. You want to stay over 40% for sure. Anything under 40% is ineffective on 3rd down. Jacksonville came into last week ineffective. 49ers defense continued to make them ineffective. So this is going to be one of the big ones. You want to be able to stay on the field with 3rd down conversions. Not only does it give you an opportunity to get points, but it also can flip the field and make the opposing team have to go further against your defense. Plus, it gives your defense a little bit of a break, and they're going to need it going against the Stafford and this Rams offense. And then you look at the defensive side of the football, and both of these defenses have been superb on 3rd down. So you're going to get a strength versus strength when it comes to the 49ers defense versus, the Rams defense versus the 49ers offense. This is strength versus strength Rams at 34% that they get off the field. The defense or offense that kind of wins this battle is going to have the best chance to win this game. I do think this is going to play a big pivotal role is third down success. And I talk about this every week, staying ahead of the sticks if you're the 49ers offense. It's important again this week. When you look at the Rams defense and the guys that they have that can rush the passer, you have to be careful because Braden Fisk, I watched him all through college. I'm a Florida State fan. The dude's an absolute monster. And so whenever I see him out there, I'm like, okay, he's going to give people problems laterally. And this is going to be a huge test for Connor Kobe and for Dominic Pooney moving laterally. And so that's one thing that, I'm concerned to watch. But then you've got also Byron Young out of Tennessee. He was great. He's been in the league for a while now. He's still a huge speed rusher. And then, of course, the guy that I thought was the best pass rusher when he came out of college in that draft, in Jared Verse. So another Florida State guy, Verse and Braden Fisk are absolute studs. They got beasts in the middle with a guy like Poona Ford and Kobe Turner. This is a talented defensive line. You don't want to see them on third down, and that's part of the reason they're effective on third down right now. It's been good. Now, I got to give credit to the 49ers. They have done a really good job of getting stops on third down, and unlike last year, they even get third down stops on third and short. It was a foregone conclusion last year. If it was 3rd and 2 or less, they were giving up a first down, it felt like. Well, this year, Robert Saleh's defense has been a lot better in those categories. So third down is going to be huge. And can the 49ers continue the third down success if they only are going to get a pass rush win rate at about, or pressure rate at about 18.8%? That's going to be something to monitor as well. 49ers trying to decide if they need to go get an edge defender. And, this could be a big game to determine that in this season if they need to go get another guy. Let's look at the red zone offense. 49ers looking at a 43% conversion rate on touchdowns. Not very good. This is not anywhere close where they need to be. You need to be 50% or over to be considered an average offense in the red zone. To be a really good offense, you want to be at 60% or more. And right now, the 49ers are at 43. They have just been ineffective in the red zone. And it's not so much the play calls all the time. There are play calls here and there that are ineffective, that don't work. But it's also the lack of execution. And there was a couple of plays, the throw to Juwan Jennings, that should have been a touchdown. Brock put it a little low. Jennings couldn't come up with a catch. I think they both share some of the responsibility on that one. You look at the Christian McCaffrey swing pass that should have went for a touchdown, and you had a tight end and a wide receiver there to block one nickel corner, and he went right between them, and they were within arm's distance of each other. That kind of thing can't happen. You've got to make that block and give Christian McCaffrey an opportunity, and they are outnumbered the Jaguars. It should have been a touchdown. Lack of execution, running game in the middle. You got Brian Robinson running up the middle, and you've got Jake Brendel, getting absolutely tossed on the inside. Like, these things can't happen. And so it's really been ineffective. And for the Rams, they've been average. Jaguars about 50%. There's a lot of teams kind of hovering in that 50% range. But if you're going to score touchdowns at 50%, you give yourself a chance. We all know Sean McVay would love this to be a bigger number, which gives the 49ers defense a chance to get some stops because the 49ers defense have been pretty good. So they had the 1 week against New Orleans where New Orleans went 100% in the red zone. They were 3 of 3. Other than that, they have played really good red zone defense. It's a lot more difficult to get touchdowns on this 49ers defense in the red zone this season than it was last season, that's for sure. 54%, you want to get this under 50. That's what they're working towards, and it's been steadily coming down. You look at the Rams, this is one of those things that they're not as good at. 60% of the time they give up touchdowns. This is an area where the 49ers need to be successful in the red zone. So you have an offense that hasn't been good in the red zone and a defense that's not great in the red zone. You have an opportunity for the 49ers or for the Rams to get stops where they don't normally get stops. But red zone production has to pick up or the 49ers are not going to score enough points to be able to beat the Los Angeles Rams. That's for sure. You can't be, kicking field goals. You got to score touchdowns. So let's look at the defense. Points allowed per game. 49ers giving up 18.8. Still in the respectable range. It did jump, over 2 points from last week where they were at 16. Rams at 20.3. It's still, it's still good, right? That's kind of the league average right around there, 20 points. You 49ers want to be around 16. 15 is elite. That's where you want to be at. But both these teams have done a pretty good job of keeping teams from scoring too many points. You look at yards allowed per game. The 49ers give up 280, Rams 284. Under 300 yards is effective defense. Under 265 is where you want to be, right? 265, 250, that's really good defense. Under 250 is elite defense. So these two teams have been effective on defense for the most part. You look at the offensive pass yards allowed per game, 49ers only giving up 165. Now, I got to, give you some context. The reason they only give up 165, they're giving up too much yards on the ground. They're allowing too many rush yards on the ground. So that is playing into some of the passing yards staying down a little bit. They have been effective when it comes to secondary play, and they've made everything contested. They've kept everything underneath. They've rallied and made tackles. That is all correct. But they're giving up too many yards on the ground right now, and that's reflected in this number. You look at the Rams, 186 is still really good. They've been good. You stay under 200 yards through the air that you allow, you're doing pretty good. So I think a lot of it with the Rams, their secondary is decent. I think I like their safety play. But when it comes to the defensive line, it's a big impact on them not giving up so many pass yards for sure. You look at the rush yards allowed per game, 49ers giving up 115. Robert Saleh, 49ers defense, emphasis on stopping the run. They gave up some big runs to Travis Etienne last week. The explosive 48-yard run definitely was a big reason why the Jaguars rushed for 150. Jaguars do have a good run offense. They've been good. They've been over 133 times this season. One time in week 1, they went over 200. So they've been effective on the ground. But you can't allow explosive run plays. That's for sure, especially explosive run touchdowns. And that's exactly what the Rams have the capabilities of. Rams are giving up less than 100 yards per game. That's definitely where you want to be. Under 90 is really good. 49ers at 115, just for, a little bit of reference. In 2019, the 49ers used to give up 112 yards per game on the ground. But they were able to pass rush like nobody's business, so it made a big difference. 49ers got to stir up the run game again. It was good. Some of these teams have started finding ways to run the ball, and last week they really picked the 49ers apart on the outside. Sam Okuwanu struggled. You felt the effects of not having Nick Bosa in the run game, especially, I thought, and of course pass rush as well. Now you look at the turnovers and the giveaways in this, for these two teams. 49ers give the ball away 8 times this season. That's 2 per game. That is not good. That's ineffective, when it comes to turning over the ball. You can't have this. 49ers, when they were really successful in 2023, they were in the plus category with turnovers all the time. They didn't turn it over very much, and they got a lot of takeaways. They are not in that category right now. There needs to be a lot more focus on taking care of the ball on offense. You just can't have turnovers. If you play clean games on offense, it will result in wins because your defense is playing pretty darn good. And your defense just has to be able to get their hands on the ball a little bit more. Fred Warner has had so many opportunities, and they were tough opportunities to come away with interceptions this year or fumble recoveries, and it just hasn't worked out. Not for lack of trying. Fred's doing a great job. But, you had the penalty on Upton Stout. That negated an interception. You had Fred, bobbling a couple balls. So 49ers just need those balls to bounce their way, and then maybe they could get some more. Rams doing a good job taking care of the football. We talked about Matthew Stafford, doing a good job, only 2 interceptions. 1 per game is kind of the average you want to have it. You'd like it to be under that, but they're doing a good job with giveaways, and 49ers are going to have to create some takeaways to be able to beat the Rams. And right now, the Rams, 7 takeaways, so they're doing good. They're creating more than 1 turnover per game. 49ers, they're not. They were doing a better job in the first couple weeks of the season. Since then, it's kind of tailed off. Averaging 1 per game, that's okay. Averaging 2 per game is where you want to be. Rams nearly at that number. 49ers are going to have to create turnovers if they're going to be able to consistently compete with the best teams in the NFL. This young secondary is going to have to make some plays. They're going to have to get some balls that get knocked out. But right now, not generating turnovers and creating a lot of turnovers by giving the ball away, that's not a recipe for success. And last week, it bit the 49ers in the butt. 4-0 Jacksonville turnovers over the 49ers. Then you throw in the punt return for touchdown and a kick return that got them in near field goal range at the end of the half. It was just not good for the 49ers in a lot of categories, the categories you normally must win. You look at the turnover differential, San Francisco 49ers are -5. That is crazy that they are -5. I can't remember the last time that it got to this point in the season that the 49ers weren't in the plus category. Even went back to last year, they were +2, even with Nick Sorensen as defensive coordinator. So this is a little bit surprising. They got to get into the plus category for them to have a chance to be a successful team this season. You look at the Rams, they're +3, which means Rams are +8 on the 49ers coming into this game. You've got to be successful taking the ball away and not turning it over on your part. And right now, the 49ers haven't done that. The fact that they're -5, and I know a lot of it came from one game, which is good news, but the fact that they're -5 and they still won 3 games this year out of 4 is crazy. That just shows that if they could put it together and take care of the ball, they'll be winning a lot more games than they'll lose. So they've got an opportunity, to turn this thing around. But yeah, I mean, that is really tough right now, being in the negative category. Not where you want to be, not even a little bit where you want to be. And that's part of the reason right now FanDuel has the San Francisco 49ers as a 5.5 point underdog against the Los Angeles Rams at home. Now the money line has moved a little bit. 49ers now at +210, and the Rams are at -255. So some people are betting on the 49ers to cover in this game. The over-under is 46.5. So if you're going to bet with FanDuel. They got lots of good player props already up as well. So parlays, you can pick anytime touchdowns, and you got some real opportunities if you want to use FanDuel. So, guys, that's the tail of the tape. We're going to continue to work on it. Short week. We're only a couple days away from this game. Short turnaround until we get to Los Angeles Rams. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating if you feel like I deserve it. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.